Joining us exclusively here on New Day is the intended target of the alleged plot, Nancy Latham, along with her daughter, Emily Latham, and Nancy's lawyer, Matthew Yelverton. Thank you very much. I know this is not a discussion that you really want to have, but it's important for people to understand. So thank you for joining us, all of you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, so let's get into one of the folds of this story, Nancy. Your husband was not initially charged, right, when this plot came out. You took some legal action. It wound up moving the investigation, and then he wound up being arrested. Tell us what motivated your suspicion that he would be involved.
From the very beginning, we had been questioned by the authorities, and at that point, from the line of questions and the things that we had been asked about that were in the hit packet, we knew with some certainty that he had to have been involved.
Divorce is ugly. Yours has certainly been that way, but could you wrap your mind around the idea that someone you started a family with, that you were in love with, would want to do something like this to you?
You know, I really couldn't. There are days when I think I'm living in some alternate universe, and I keep waiting for somebody to kind of shake me out of it. Granted, our divorce was ugly. My family court attorney continually told me, just, you know, be quiet, take the high road, let him say whatever he wants, and then we'll have our day in court.
Now, the case isn't over yet, the divorce case, obviously. Now you have this parallel case going on, this criminal case. You know what your husband says. He says this is about you leveraging the divorce case, putting pressure on him, being vindictive because of what's going on in the divorce. How do you respond?
My response would be that the evidence obviously is contrary to that. There has been a lot of there's been an enormous smear campaign that they've been trying to run, and I understand that, because if I had done something illegal, I would certainly try to deflect from that. So I understand what they're trying to do. I certainly don't appreciate it. I think it's relatively horrific that they're still trying to push accountability elsewhere when the evidence shows otherwise.
Now, Emily, I see you, sitting there. You're obviously upset by this. This has to be especially difficult for you because this is your dad we're talking about. And you got up at court, you looked at the judge, your father was in the room, and you said that you felt scared for your life. I know that was very difficult for you. Why did you feel that you needed to speak up?
I felt that it was important that people knew how I felt. Also, I was there representing my sister, and we have just been so scared. This is not an easy experience for anyone involved, but it's just caused so much turmoil for us that I knew I had to speak so that the judge could hear how it's really been affecting me and my sister.
The allegations, just the suggestion, is frightening. But do you really believe your father would do something to hurt your mother, or maybe even you and your sister?
I feel that people are capable of things that we don't know, and I've grown up with this man. He lived with us for the first 17 years of my life, and it's just been so difficult trying to figure out what he would like to do, what he would not like to do, what he is going to do next. And I really just don't want to risk the chance that he could do something to hurt me or my family.
Now, Emily, you and your mom, Nancy, you guys went into hiding before this trial because you were worried about this. You believe that the motive here, fundamentally, Nancy, is money, right? I mean, that's what this comes down to for you?
It has to be. I can't imagine any other reason. For four people that I have never spoken to, that I have never met, that I've never had a conversation with, to have such detailed information about me and to be involved in this, the only thing that I can wrap my brain around is that it had to be tied into our divorce.
Now, Matthew, let me bring you in here. Matthew, because you're the attorney who brought the civil action that helped push this investigation forward. I know that the authorities don't want you to give too much about the case because it's an active investigation, but this is not a he said, she said, right? There is information that led to identification of these other people and implication of Chris, Nancy's husband, in this as well, right? What can you tell me?
Well, that's right. And just to clarify one point, this was not initiated by Nancy. This investigation was initiated by the U.S. Attorney's Office and ATF. So while we did file a civil suit on Nancy's behalf, that was after an investigation was already well underway. At this point, we're continuing an investigation into the civil suit into how these two Bank of America employees formulated this plot, and we're exploring all legal options against the conspirators as well as Bank of America.
All right, now I get that. I read through the papers, and I understand why you're trying to extend liability here to the bank because this was going on in its midst. But let's get back to what really is so troubling about this situation. Do you feel, from what you know of the investigation, that there is real proof that there was a plot afoot, that there were steps taken toward murderous intent, and that Chris, Nancy's husband, was part of it, if not leading it?
Well, Chris, I'm not privy to all the information that the U.S. Attorney's Office has. What I will say is that a grand jury heard the evidence and indicted, and yesterday a judge heard the evidence and declined to grant bail or grant a bond to Mr. Latham. So I think those speak for themselves. There's definitely evidence, otherwise we wouldn't be postured as we are today.
Now, Nancy, your husband's attorney says, hey, he could have fled. He's known he was a suspect for some time. There's no proof here. He didn't run. Does that give you any comfort?
No, it actually does not. For the time period that my husband remained in Charleston, he actually did so with Wendy Moore, who was incarcerated at the time and currently is. The woman that they found living with him, he was raising her 2 children, all the while still married to me. So I can't begin to understand why he did that, but perhaps that's one of the reasons that he did not leave town.
Look, I know
that
this...
he felt some obligation to her and her children.
All right, Nancy, thank you for that explanation. I know this is a long road on 2 different fronts now, and I'm sure this is a turn anybody ever wanted to see. Nancy, thank you for coming on. Matthew, thank you for laying out what you could. And Emily, I'm sorry that you have to be on TV this way. I know this is difficult for you. I know that it was important to you to stand up, and I appreciate you being on the show.
Thank you.
Thanks for your professionalism,
Thank you.
Chris.
All right, good luck going forward.